So, I'm gonna open up to you today about something I have spent most of my life hiding, something that brought me a lot of shame when I was a kid, and something that's actually a really huge part of who I am today and why I talk about what I talk about, and this deep perspective that I have formed about the world and humanity and how we're showing up within the matrix. So, I grew up in a religious cult out of respect for the people who I know that are still in it. I'm not going to say which cult it was. Maybe in a future video. Maybe in a future video I'll be more specific, but for now, I did grow up in a cult, a religious cult, since I was born. From the day I was born until I was 18 years old, and finally had the freedom to leave home and go off to college and actually start to explore who I was, apart from that constrictive, restrictive, suppressive, repressive environment. When I was 18 years old, I left home as many people in the US, let's say. Many people do that. That is sort of the expectation placed upon many people in American culture. I grew up in the very interesting city of Washington, D.C. And as I was growing up in this religious cult, I felt like I was living a double life because, on the one hand, my family and the community that they were most connected with, had very, very strict views around how a child was meant to grow up, what a child was meant to think and believe and express about themselves. And one of the dangers of growing up in a very restrictive environment like a religious cult is you really start to conform to everything you see around you. One of the dangers of this type of environment is adopting this groupthink mentality where everybody, let's say, dresses the same. Everybody dresses the same, everybody talks the same, everybody thinks the same, everybody shares the same views, everybody sees the world or is taught to see the world in the same way and treat others in the same way and express themselves in the same way, even use the same vocabulary, even use the same type of relating with other people. You know, growing up in this type of environment, really, from a very young age, I felt that something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it. I mean, I was just a kid. But I felt that there was something strange about teaching everybody in this community that we're born here to help the world become a better place. But to do that, it requires self-sacrifice. I grew up in a community that viewed self-sacrifice as the ultimate way of being good in this world. That to help others and to make the world a better place, you had to keep your mouth shut, never speak up about what you actually think, who you actually are, what you actually need, how you actually feel at any given moment. I was taught that the best way that I could serve this world was to keep my mouth shut, do as I was told, be obedient no matter what, even if I disagreed, work a good job, be extremely productive, and derive my sense of self-worth from how much I was helping other people, how many hours a day I was working, how good of grades that I got. Basically, growing up in this type of environment taught me that to be a good person and to make this world a better place, I had to completely erase myself. I was taught that my voice did not matter if it did not conform to the community I was raised in. If I ever disagreed, if I ever questioned why things were done a certain way, why people believed a certain way, which I often questioned as a child, I learned from a young age that there would be backlash, that there would be hell to pay, that my voice, my opinions, my thoughts and feelings would disrupt the flow, would disrupt the community, would disrupt the people, that my voice, my way of expressing my perspective, my opinions, my needs, my boundaries did not matter. That is the danger of this type of groupthink mentality. That is the danger of growing up in a strict, suppressive, repressive, oppressive environment, such as a religious cult. But religious cults, they're not the only environments that breed this type of mindset. Religious cults are a symptom of a global structure that we're all in as human beings on this earth. And if you're still here listening to this message, let me know in the comments if this is resonating. Have you ever felt like your voice does not matter? Have you ever felt that something is off? Why are we all conforming? Ran out of storage, put them back. Why are we all conforming to the trends? Exactly the same vocabulary, the same way of speaking. Why do we dress alike? Why do we look alike? Why are we all performing? Why are we all acting as sheep? Why are we conforming to the lies of society instead of taking the time to discover who we truly are at our core? That's the journey I've been on since leaving this cult, since 18 years old. I've been on this journey of really deep self-discovery, because from a young age, I could see the dangers of this type of groupthink mentality. I could see the dangers of everybody jumping blindly onto the bandwagon of whatever trend was going on, of whatever the leaders were saying was good. And that's another thing about leaders. What I noticed about leaders in this cult, for example, it was started by a very large family. The husband and wife who started it ended up having, I think, 13 kids. And over time, as the movement grew internationally over the last few decades, there's been a lot of disharmony in that founding family. A lot of disharmony to the point where, one of the kids broke off and formed his own sect that became pretty violent. I won't go into too many details to maintain a bit of privacy for those I know who are still in this movement, but focusing on the disharmony that has trickled down from the founding family of this cult. I have come to find that the things that I experienced as a child growing up in this strict environment, the idealism of making the world a better place, put a tremendous amount of pressure onto not just my family, but every family that was involved in this movement. The very idealistic notions that, we can make the world a better place by living for the sake of others. We can make the world a better place through self-sacrifice, through being martyrs, through being saviors, putting our needs last at any given moment, dropping everything to help someone else in need, regardless of, if we're not feeling well, regardless of if I don't have the time right now, regardless of I don't actually want to help right now. I'm in the middle of something. I'm taking care of myself. I don't actually have the money to give to this person right now, but I'll give it anyway because I was told to give every single dime from my pocket to be a good person, especially if it hurts me in the process, which it often does, to take part in this type of self-sacrificial mentality. When you grow up in this type of system, in this type of self-sacrificial, self-punishing mentality for the sake of appearing as a good person, what happens in the process of trying over and over and over to be a good person is it creates an internal disharmony. It creates an internal fragmentation, starting with the self. Because if you're not showing up in this world, understanding the power of your voice, understanding that you are worthy of your own needs, understanding that you are deserving of boundaries, you deserve to take up space, that your presence is a present to this world, that you are not here to sacrifice yourself, to shrink yourself, to become invisible for the sake of being a good person and helping others. You are doing a huge disservice to everyone you try to help every time you shrink yourself, because you are not being authentic to who you are, to how you actually feel, to what you actually think. Every time you silence your voice, every time you muzzle yourself, you are not being true to you. And over time, what these patterns of behavior cause in relationships is more disharmony, is more chaos. The more that you continue to suppress yourself, your needs, your voice, your actual personality, the more you shrink yourself and water yourself down and punish yourself in the process, you're actually abusing yourself. You are abusing yourself every time you suppress yourself. And you're doing a disservice to other people because you're not giving them the chance to actually get to know the true you. You are simply putting on a mask of performance to please other people, to please them in the way that you think they're expecting you to be. You shrink yourself to help other people feel comfortable in your presence. But that means the people you attract and attach to in your life are only comfortable with this watered down version of you. You're not giving anyone the chance to actually get to know the true you. And what that does, that's what happens on an individual level. Now imagine that on a large scale, collective, societal structure. Imagine that as entire communities in this world of individuals who are showing up and behaving in this self-suppressive, self-punishing, self-critical way. That means we've got an entire collective of people who are wearing masks, who feel deep shame for actually speaking their truth, who don't feel safe to be seen as they really are, as they really feel, as they really think. That means we are creating a society of sheep by forcing everybody to conform to the norms that aren't actually true to who we are. And so going back to the original founders, the founding family of this church, when I look at the disharmony that has been created within that original family, who started the entire movement, who started this entire structure, this entire worldwide community that I grew up in, that's the root. That is the root cause. When you see disharmony beginning at the top, beginning at the founders, the disharmony will always trickle down. It will always trickle down into everybody that gets swept up in the movement, everybody that gets involved in this type of system. Disharmony always begins at the roots. It always begins at the roots, and that's what feeds into the entire system itself. So, religious cults. What a doozy, am I right? But let's not even call them religious. Let's just call them cults. There are so many cults in this world, and far more than people even want to be aware of. But if this message is resonating with you, let me know in the comments what you're taking away from this. And what I'd really like to leave you most with from this message is you don't have to conform to the norms around you. You don't. Question them. Question everything. Question the belief systems you grew up with and ask yourself, do these really ring true for me as an individual? Ask yourself, what do I truly want? What do I truly think and feel and desire in this life? Are these in accordance with the norms I grew up in within my own community? Or is there disharmony in my life? Is there disharmony in my relationships? And if there is, where can I trace that back to? What are the roots of this disharmony? And what are the ways in which I have been living a life that only allows a watered down version of myself to survive? How am I shrinking myself to fit into systems that I don't even actually agree with or want to belong to? How am I shrinking myself to fit in? And how much do I want to continue doing that moving forward? Or perhaps, is it time to start a new system in your life? Food for thought. And I thank you so much for listening to this message. I would love to connect with you in the comments if any of this is resonating. There's so much more to say on this topic. Oh, Lordy, I have so much to tell you about this wild life I've been living. But for now, if you'd love to be a part of my community, a part of my channel, and continue to receive more potent messages, truth transmissions, wisdom weaving like this, I would love to have you. Feel free to check out the links in the description. I would love for you to join my newsletter if you want to get on that, where I'll be sharing more messages like this in written form as well, and some exclusive things I only share on my newsletter. So I'd love to have you join. And yeah, I'd also love to invest in some better equipment for the channel. So a better microphone, for example. So yeah, donations are always appreciated. And keep flowing and growing, my friends. We are on this wild human journey together. We're all in this together. And yeah, I love you. I'll just leave it at that. I love you. Keep flowing and growing. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.